Think your Monday morning commute is rough. Brother, you wouldn't survive a single sunrise in the Maya world. We've gotten so comfortable with our climate-controlled offices and drive-through coffee that we've forgotten what real survival looks like. The Maya civilization wasn't some peaceful paradise. It was a brutal, unforgiving world where a simple mistake could cost you your life, your freedom, or worse. Let me paint you a picture that'll make you appreciate that morning traffic jam. You're about to discover why the Maya civilization would chew you up and spit you out faster than you can say, "Where's the nearest Starbucks?" The morning that would break you. Your day starts before dawn, not because you set an alarm, but because the sound of human sacrifice echoes across the city plaza. That's right, while you're used to waking up to NPR or your favorite morning show, the Maya started their day with the screams of prisoners having their hearts ripped out on top of massive pyramids. The priests believed this blood offering was necessary to make the sun rise. No sacrifice, no sunrise. No pressure, right? But here's where it gets personal. You're not watching this from the comfort of your couch. You're standing in that plaza, and depending on your luck, you might be next. See, the Maya didn't just sacrifice prisoners of war. They sacrificed anyone the gods demanded. Merchants who failed to pay tribute, farmers whose crops didn't meet quotas, or simply whoever the priests decided the gods were hungry for that day. Archaeological evidence from sites like Chichen Itza shows that thousands of people were sacrificed annually. The famous cenote at Chichen Itza contained the remains of men, women, and children, all thrown in alive as offerings to the rain god Chak. Modern guys complain about workplace stress, but imagine your boss literally having the power to offer you to the gods if quarterly numbers don't look good. Assuming you survive the morning sacrifice, it's time for breakfast. Forget your protein shake and avocado toast. If you're a commoner, which statistically you would be, your morning meal consists of a tole, a thin gruel made from ground corn. That's it. No sugar, no milk, no flavor. Just watery corn mush that tastes like disappointment. The Maya diet was about as exciting as watching paint dry in a humidity chamber. Corn, beans, and squash, the same three ingredients day after day, year after year. Meat was a luxury reserved for nobles and special occasions. When commoners did get meat, it was usually dog, turkey, or if they were really lucky, deer. But here's the kicker. Most of the time, that meat was already going bad because refrigeration wouldn't be invented for another 1,000 years. Historical records show that the average Maya peasant consumed about 2,000 calories per day, mostly from corn. Compare that to the average American man today, who eats around 2,500 calories, and you're already starting your Maya day in a caloric deficit. You'd be hungry, weak, and irritable before you even started your backbreaking workday. And don't even think about drinking water. Most water sources were contaminated with human waste, parasites, and diseases that would have you doubled over in agony within hours. Instead, everyone, including children, drank a weak alcoholic beverage called balche, made from fermented honey and tree bark. So you'd start your day slightly buzzed, malnourished, and listening to human sacrifice. What could go wrong? After your disappointing breakfast, it's time for work. And brother, Maya work would make your toughest job look like a spa day. If you were a farmer, which 90% of the population was, your day involved back-breaking labor under the scorching Yucatan sun with tools that would make a caveman laugh. Forget John Deere tractors or even basic plows. Maya farmers used wooden digging sticks called koes to break up the hard limestone soil. Imagine trying to farm rocky ground with nothing but a sharpened stick. Your hands would be bloody and blistered within an hour. Your back would be screaming by noon, and you'd have to do this for 12 to 14 hours a day, every day, just to grow enough food to survive. The Maya practiced slash and burn agriculture, which meant clearing jungle by hand, burning it, and then farming the ashen-rich soil for a few years before it became depleted. This wasn't weekend warrior yard work. This was clearing dense tropical rainforest with stone axes and machetes. One archaeological study estimated that clearing just 1 acre of jungle required over 150 man-hours of work. That's nearly 4 full work weeks of brutal physical labor just to create farmable land. But here's what would really break you: the pressure. Maya society was built on tribute and taxation. Every farmer had to give a portion of their harvest to the local noble, who passed it up to the regional lord, who sent it to the king. Fall short of your quota, and you could lose your land, your freedom, or your life. There were no crop insurance programs, no government subsidies, no safety nets. One bad harvest could mean starvation for your entire family. Construction workers had it even worse. The massive pyramids and temples we admire today were built entirely by human muscle power. No cranes, no pulleys, no machinery. Just thousands of men hauling multi-ton limestone blocks up steep ramps using ropes and wooden rollers. The pyramid at Chichen Itza contains an estimated 1.5 million tons of stone. Every single pound was moved by hand. The social hierarchy that would crush your spirit. Here's something that would drive modern men absolutely insane. You had zero social mobility. None. If you were born a peasant, you died a peasant. If your father was a farmer, you were a farmer. There was no pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, no American dream, no opportunity to better your situation through hard work or innovation. Maya society was rigidly stratified into 4 classes, and moving between them was virtually impossible. At the top were the nobles, Almehenob, who owned everything and controlled everyone. Below them were the priests, Akinob, who wielded enormous power through their supposed connection to the gods. Then came the commoners, Chembal Winiol, that's you, who did all the work and owned nothing. At the bottom were slaves, Pipenkatab, who were often prisoners of war or people who couldn't pay their debts. The psychological impact of this system would be devastating for any modern person. You're used to believing that effort equals reward, that you can improve your situation through education, hard work, or smart decisions. In Maya society, your entire life was predetermined by the circumstances of your birth. No matter how intelligent, creative, or hardworking you were, you'd spend your entire life serving people who contributed nothing but happened to be born into the right family. The nobles didn't just have more stuff. They had absolute power over your life. They could demand your labor, your crops, your children, or your life itself. Historical records from Palenque describe nobles who would order peasants to be buried alive with them when they died, just so they'd have servants in the afterlife. Imagine your boss having that kind of power over you. Justice that would terrify you. Think our legal system is flawed? Maya justice would give you nightmares. There were no lawyers, no due process, no presumption of innocence. If you were accused of a crime, you were probably guilty, and the punishments were designed to be as brutal and public as possible. Steal food because your family is starving, they'd cut off your hands, commit adultery, death by stoning, speak disrespectfully to a noble, they might have you flayed alive. The Maya legal system had over 200 different crimes that carried the death penalty, including cutting down the wrong tree or hunting in the king's forest. But here's the part that would really mess with your head: trial by ordeal. If there was any doubt about your guilt, they'd make you prove your innocence through torture. One common method involved making you carry a red-hot iron bar for 9 feet. If your burns healed cleanly within 3 days, you were innocent. If they became infected, which they almost always did without modern medicine, you were guilty and executed. Another popular method was trial by water. They'd tie you up and throw you into a cenote. If you sank, you were innocent, but also dead. If you floated, you were guilty and would be executed. It was literally a no-win situation. The Maya version of justice was basically, let's see if the gods save you from this horrible thing we're about to do to you. Warfare that would haunt your dreams. The Maya weren't the peaceful astronomers and mathematicians that popular culture portrays. They were warriors who engaged in constant brutal warfare that would make modern combat look civilized. Wars weren't fought over territory or resources. They were fought to capture prisoners for sacrifice and to demonstrate the divine power of kings. Maya warfare was up close and personal. No guns, no artillery, no air support. Just obsidian-tipped spears, wooden clubs embedded with razor-sharp volcanic glass, and atlatls, spear throwers, that could punch through armor at close range. But the goal wasn't to kill your enemies quickly. It was to capture them alive so they could be tortured and sacrificed in elaborate public ceremonies. If you were captured in battle, your fate was sealed. You'd be paraded through the streets, tortured for days or weeks to demonstrate your captor's power, and then sacrificed in the most painful way possible. At Bonampak, Murals show captured warriors having their fingernails ripped out, being suspended by their wrists, and having their blood collected in bowls for ritual purposes. The psychological warfare was just as brutal. Maya armies would display the heads of their enemies on stakes, wear the flayed skin of captured warriors as clothing, and force prisoners to watch their comrades being sacrificed before their own turn came. The famous murals at Bonampak show nobles wearing the severed heads of their enemies as jewelry. Even if you weren't a warrior, you weren't safe. Maya armies practiced total warfare, destroying crops, burning villages, and enslaving entire populations. During the Classic period, warfare was so constant that many cities were abandoned not because of drought or disease, but because the population fled to escape the endless cycle of violence. Disease and medicine that would kill you. Get sick in Maya civilization, and you might as well start planning your funeral. Maya medicine was a bizarre combination of herbal remedies, bloodletting, and supernatural beliefs that would horrify any modern doctor. Their understanding of disease was based on the belief that illness was caused by angry gods, evil spirits, or an imbalance of the four bodily humors. Got a fever? Time for bloodletting. Maya doctors would cut open your veins and drain blood into bowls, believing this would restore balance to your body. They'd use obsidian blades or stingray spines to make the cuts, with no understanding of sterile technique or infection control. Many patients died from blood loss or infection rather than their original illness. Dental problems were particularly horrific. The Maya had no understanding of dental hygiene, and tooth decay was rampant. Their solution? They'd drill holes in your teeth using stone tools and fill them with jade or obsidian, not for health reasons, but for decoration. The pain must have been excruciating, and infection was almost guaranteed. The mortality rates tell the whole story. About 30% of Maya children died before age 5. The average life expectancy was between 30 and 40 years. If you made it to 50, you were considered ancient. Compare that to modern life expectancy of nearly 80 years, and you realize just how brutal Maya life really was. Diseases that we treat with over-the-counter medications were death sentences. A simple cold could develop into pneumonia and kill you within days. Diarrhea from contaminated water could lead to fatal dehydration. Cuts and wounds regularly became infected and led to sepsis. The Maya had no antibiotics, no vaccines, no understanding of germs or sanitation. The collapse that would leave you stranded. Here's the final nightmare scenario. You're living through the collapse of Maya civilization itself. Between 800 and 900 CE, the great cities of the southern lowlands were rapidly abandoned. Populations that had numbered in the tens of thousands simply vanished, leaving behind empty pyramids and overgrown plazas. Imagine watching your entire world fall apart. Trade networks that had sustained your city for centuries suddenly stopped functioning. The complex agricultural systems that fed millions of people began to fail. The kings and nobles who had ruled with absolute authority either fled or were overthrown. The priests who had promised that their rituals would maintain cosmic order were proven wrong as droughts persisted and crops failed. Recent research suggests the collapse was caused by a perfect storm of factors: overpopulation, environmental degradation, extended drought, and warfare. But for the average Maya person living through it, the cause didn't matter. What mattered was that the world they knew was ending, and there was nowhere to run. Archaeological evidence from sites like Tikal shows that the collapse happened incredibly quickly. Cities that had thrived for centuries were abandoned within a generation. The sophisticated trade networks that had connected the Maya world simply stopped functioning. The knowledge and skills that had built one of the world's great civilizations were lost as the educated elite fled or died. Why you should be grateful. By now, you're probably feeling pretty good about your modern life. That traffic jam doesn't seem so bad when you consider the alternative was walking through a jungle filled with jaguars, venomous snakes, and enemy warriors. Your demanding boss seems reasonable compared to a king who could have you sacrificed on a whim. Your worst day at the office beats the best day in a Maya cornfield. The Maya were remarkable people who achieved incredible things. They developed sophisticated mathematics, created accurate calendars, built magnificent cities, and established trade networks that spanned thousands of miles. But their daily life was brutal, dangerous, and short. They lived in a world where violence was commonplace, where disease was a constant threat, where social mobility was impossible, and where the gods demanded blood to keep the world functioning. Modern life has its problems, sure. We complain about traffic, taxes, and technology, but we live longer, healthier, safer lives than any humans in history. We have opportunities that Maya peasants couldn't even imagine. We have medicine that can cure diseases that would have killed entire Maya cities. We have legal systems that, whatever their flaws, don't involve throwing people into C-notes to determine their guilt. So the next time you're stuck in traffic, remember that you're sitting in a climate-controlled vehicle, listening to music, probably sipping a beverage that's safer than anything the Maya ever drank. You're not walking through a jungle with a wooden spear, hoping you don't encounter a jaguar or an enemy war party. You're not wondering if today is the day the priests will decide the gods need your heart to make the sun rise. The Maya built one of history's great civilizations, but they paid a price in blood, sweat, and suffering that would break any modern person within hours. Their world was magnificent and terrible, sophisticated and savage, inspiring and horrifying. It was a world that demanded everything from its people and gave back just enough to keep them alive. You wouldn't last 24 hours in Maya civilization, and honestly, that's probably a good thing. Sometimes the best way to appreciate what you have is to understand what others endured to survive. The Maya survived and thrived in conditions that would destroy us, and for that, they deserve our respect and admiration. But they also deserve our gratitude that we live in a world where human sacrifice is history, where medicine can heal instead of harm, and where the sunrise doesn't require someone's blood to make it happen. The next time someone tells you that ancient civilizations had it all figured out, remind them that the Maya were brilliant, accomplished people who lived in a world so brutal that a single day there would send any of us running back to our comfortable, climate-controlled, legally protected modern lives faster than you can say, "I'll take the traffic jam, thanks." But here's what makes this story even more incredible. The Maya didn't disappear. That's right, despite everything I've just told you about their brutal civilization, they're still here. Today, there are between 7 and 11 million Maya people living in Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras. They survived the collapse, the Spanish conquest, centuries of oppression, and even genocide attempts during the Guatemalan Civil War. Think about that for a minute. Your ancestors probably came from Europe, Africa, or Asia within the last few centuries, seeking better opportunities in America. But the Maya, they've been in the same place for over 3,000 years, weathering storms that would have scattered any other civilization to the winds. They've maintained their languages. Over 30 different Mayan languages are still spoken today. They've preserved their traditions, their agricultural knowledge, and their connection to the land that their ancestors farmed with those wooden digging sticks. And here's something that'll blow your mind. Many of the foods you eat today were first cultivated by those same Maya farmers who lived such brutal lives. Chocolate? That's from cacao beans that Maya priests considered so sacred, they used them as currency. Tomatoes, peppers, vanilla, avocados, all gifts from Maya, agricultural innovation. Every time you bite into a chocolate bar or add hot sauce to your eggs, you're tasting the legacy of people who survived conditions that would break us. The mathematical concepts they developed, including the invention of zero, laid groundwork for calculations we still use today. Their astronomical observations were so accurate that their calendar was more precise than the one Europe was using when Columbus arrived. NASA still studies Maya astronomical records because they track celestial movements with incredible precision over centuries. But perhaps most remarkably, modern Maya communities have found ways to blend ancient wisdom with contemporary life. They've become doctors, teachers, engineers, and politicians while maintaining their cultural identity. They've adapted to the modern world without losing their souls, something many of us struggle with in our comfortable but often disconnected lives. There's a lesson here for every middle-aged guy feeling overwhelmed by modern pressures. The Maya survived literal hell on Earth, human sacrifice, constant warfare, brutal labor, and societal collapse. Yet, they endured. They found meaning in their suffering, strength in their community, and hope in their traditions. When we complain about our jobs, our politics, or our problems, we're dealing with challenges that pale in comparison to what the Maya faced daily. Maybe that's the real takeaway from this journey into Maya civilization. It's not just that we should be grateful for our modern comforts, though we absolutely should be. It's that human resilience is more powerful than we imagine. The Maya proved that people can endure almost anything and still maintain their dignity, their culture, and their hope for the future. So, the next time life feels overwhelming, remember the Maya. Remember that your ancestors, whether Maya or not, survived things that would terrify us today. You carry their strength in your DNA, their resilience in your spirit. If they could build pyramids with wooden tools and maintain hope while living under the constant threat of sacrifice, you can handle whatever Monday morning throws at you. The Maya civilization would have destroyed us in 24 hours, but it also created people tough enough to survive anything. That's a legacy worth remembering.